What is going on, everyone? In this video, we'll be taking a look at client-side storage, and I'm going to be trying something a little different today. I'm going to be using PowerPoint as a visual rather than trying to draw all this kind of stuff myself. Anyways, so the first kind of client-side storage, if you can call it that, is cookies. And I'm sure you've seen at some point surfing the web where you'll get a prompt asking whether they can save your cookies or not. And essentially what happens is that the server will send a request asking you to put a cookie in all your future requests. So it will send you a cookie, which is like just some string. And then every time you make an HTTP request, it will have that cookie in it. And that allows the server to distinguish between multiple users, because you can think of a web server, let's say it's Amazon on AWS, right? There's a whole bunch of users hitting those. It's not just one server, but hitting those servers. And if they can tell that it's you making that request as opposed to someone else, well, they can do certain things. Like one of the things would be personalization or tracking. So a lot of AWS or Amazon type things will, they'll show you things that you are likely to buy and not someone else. Cookies are also useful for logins. So you'll have tokens. So when you log into your bank and you successfully authenticate, well, you'll get a token, and that user will be able to, the server will be able to tell, oh yes, this is this person and they're logged in. The problem with cookies is that they can only hold up to 4 kilobytes of data, more or less. And so with the HTML5 spec, they have come up with different other means of storing data on the client side. And in this video, I won't go through all of them, but I'll only go through a few. Web SQL is on its way out, but it's still very much in use just because of the limitations on mobile phones. So file system, this is actually writing files to the file system. This, as you can see, isn't supported by a lot of the known browsers. Application cache I won't get into, but in this video we'll be talking about IndexedDB and local storage and session storage, which I'll get into later. The important thing to note is that IndexedDB will be able to hold more than local storage and session storage, and session storage doesn't persist beyond the session. And then here we have the different values. So it's very dependent on your device. If you are using a mobile phone, well then maybe it would only allow you to store less. So that's enough of that. Let's get into coding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Create React app as our boilerplate. And I'm going to pause the video because my computer is very slow and this is going to take a while. So I will see you guys in a bit. And we are back. So let's navigate into the directory and then we'll run yarn start. And again, I might pause the video because my computer is very slow. And we are back. So if we open up the Chrome DevTools and we go to the application tab, you can see right here that we have the different kinds of storage. So we have local storage, session storage, IndexedDB, Web SQL, and cookies. And so if you wanted to store something in session storage, let's say, what you would do is you would do session storage, and then the key, which let's say is name, and let's say we do Corey. And then if I wanted to retrieve something, before that, let me just show you. So as you can see right here, we have a key and a value of Corey. And it's also worth noting that right down here, the storage is per domain, okay? So per URL. So we would have, let's say I was on google.com. Well, that might have its own session storage, okay? Anyway, so if we wanted to use session storage, all we would have to do is give it the name again, and you can see right here it retrieved it. Now, the way session storage works is if I open this app in another tab and close this one, let's say, and I go and I inspect, you can see that now the key value pair is gone, okay? And just to prove that to you, we try and do alert session storage name, it's undefined, okay? So the big difference between session storage and local storage is that local storage actually persists, okay? And you can use it really in the same way. So let's do name Corey. And then if I do alert local storage name, we get Corey, right? And if I look into local storage for this domain, we have the key value pair. Now, if I close that, and then I hit inspect, and if we go right here, you can see that it's still there. So if I did a alert local storage and then pass the name, you would get Corey. Be right back. Okay, sorry about that, my oven went off. So now let's take a look at IndexedDB. Now, I don't actually suggest or recommend using the IndexedDB API directly. What I would typically do is use a npm package. So there's a bunch, but the one I use is localForage. And this is basically a promise-based wrapper to the functionality of the IndexedDB. And so again, I'm going to pause the video and come back when this is installing. All right, now if we open up the source, and drag this over here. All right, so let's zoom this in. All right, that's better. So we're gonna take this stuff out of here. All right. So let's start off by creating a form. Okay, and our form will have an input. And let's say this input is for your favorite color. All right. So we are going to listen for changes on this input. So we'll do handle change. We need this. All right. Let's call this value. Value will be equivalent to the whatever is in that input at that point in time. We'll also need to create a constructor right? And then we'll define our state with some value. It can be blank initially. And then we're also going to have to bind our function so that the value of this is defined. Okay. Now we're going to need to handle the submit. Excuse me. And for this, we want to prevent the default because that will refresh our page. And again, we're going to have to bind the keyword this to this guy. Okay. So what we're going to want to do is take the value of our input and store it into our IndexedDB. So from the localForage documentation, I'm just going to grab this. And before I forget, we need to import it. Okay, so what is this doing? It will basically create the, we're going to change this to our value. So what it's going to do is it's going to create an entry where this is the key and then this is the value. And it returns a promise. And like it says right here, you could do other things with it after it's stored the key value pair. And if it runs into any errors, well then it will run this code. Okay, and now we'll create a button and we'll call it retrieve, and we'll add a click event. Okay. And with this, we will retrieve the data. And so this is the code to retrieve the data. And you have to make sure that the keys match. Okay. And give me a second here. This is actually the one I want. All right, so you'll retrieve the value and then you can do something with this value. And if any errors occur, then it will run this code. An important thing to note is that you're going to want to change this to an arrow function. Otherwise, the keyword this won't be what you want it to be. And on that note, let's make sure we bind this. Right, okay, so what are we going to do? We are going to create a paragraph, and we are going to create a ref to this paragraph. Okay, so we'll have the HTML element, and we're going to do this.p is equal to the element, and we're going to define p in our constructor. Okay, so now what we're going to want to do is we're going to take our p, and then we're going to change the inner text, and we're going to make it equal to the value we retrieved from the database. Okay, so now let's run your yarn start. And depending on how long this takes, I may or may not pause the video. And we are back. So let's open up our Chrome DevTools for a second here. So let's say my favorite color is blue, and I forgot to create a button to submit. So let's add that. So again, it will be an input, but the type will be submit. Okay, and that should automatically refresh. There you go. All right, so let's say my favorite color is blue. If we go to our IndexedDB here, right now it is blank. If I hit submit, we can see right here that we have our key, some key, and then the value blue. And if I want to retrieve it from the database, let's say right. So it works similarly to local storage. So the tab doesn't matter like session storage. So let's say I hit retrieve. You can see right here that it retrieved the data, and then it set the inner text to blue. So the last thing I want to touch on is how this stuff gets deleted. And so right now, you know, it might seem as if it persists indefinitely, but that is not the case. The user can clear their storage. And so let's say in Chrome, right, when you go down here to your, you know, clearing browser history. So if this is checked or this is checked, they'll both get cleared. And hopefully this won't take too long. All right, let's take a look here. Oops, 3000. All right, and then if we go inspect, we take a look here, you can see that they are no longer there. So if I hit retrieve, nothing will happen. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you like the content. And yeah.